room, Alyce.
Thank you. Yes, I'll paint.
Wow.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. Tammy Youngst here, along with my co-coach, Steve Schleter. And today we have a special guest for you. Alyce Dailey with the Dailey Group is here to talk to us and piggyback on something that we spoke about with Alyce a while back. And that was how they leverage client events at such a high level and it's such a big part of their business. And given our current circumstances, you know, things have changed and we've really gone into the digital world and how do we do things differently? And Alyce is just pivoted on a dime and they're going to talk to us about how they're taking client events and doing them in the virtual world.
That's exciting, I tell you. But before we get started in that area, guys, I want to just jump in and give us some perspective on making sure we've got our tools. What are we tapping into as we go? I'm going to go to a screen share here for you in just a second. And I want to make sure that you guys are tuned in to an opportunity. And on your e-learning portal, your Kajabi e-learning portal, you'll see that when you log on, you get past the course introduction. We've set up a special section, and guys, we're adding to this every few days. The situation out in our markets changes. It means different potential conversations that you're having out there with your database and with your community. And so you'll see right here, it says COVID-19 database resources and conversations. And of course, the webinar we did on March 13th was really an important webinar regarding your mindset and some of the potential conversations with your database. We talked about, the victims, triangle versus the empowerment triangle. And if you haven't watched that webinar, I encourage you to do so. And then we've posted some potential conversations that you might be having with your database that are just right now. In fact, I've got 2 additional videos and lessons that we're going to add in here. And some of these are what we call never-ending referral shorts. And a never-ending referral shorts anywhere from 8 to maybe 12, 13 minutes tops with right now, market of the moment resources. And these things you're going to find right here in this COVID database resource and conversation section. If you go on down, you'll find all the other recorded webinars, and then you get into the 8 lessons of never-ending referrals. So just make sure you're going back to the portal for the resources that we've got available for you there to take advantage of. All right, so that being said, are we ready to jump into this thing with our special guest today, Tammy?
Yes.
All right.
Start, Alyce.
So Alyce Dailey, thank you for being with us today. And, the conversation out there, and Tammy said it, has been around this word pivot. And before we kind of get into one of the pivots we're going to talk about today, which is how you're taking client events, which is something that you and Seth have built a whole enterprise around that. And now we've got this, we're going to talk about it here in a little bit, social distancing to deal with. First, tell me about, as a team, there are other people out here who are going to be tuning in today, listening to the recording about, all the things they have to do to pivot, to turn on a dime, to be proactively going into this market in the right way. Tell us about some of the things y'all have done as a team to kind of adapt.
Well, I feel really fortunate because we've been talking about this for a couple of years because, really my long-term plan has been, well, how do we get out of, living in the same place the entire year? So if we wanted to spend a month at the beach a year, how would we do that? So we started with that question in mind over a year ago and said, okay, well, what would it look like to do a Zoom consult, a buyer consult, a Zoom seller consult? And I think one of the most beautiful parts about what we're going through right now is that we get to design our business any way we want. And on the other side of this, in our new normal, our clients are going to think it's totally normal to do a consult without ever seeing the house online. So it's thinking about, okay, what do I want to create? And the things that we're doing right now are, number one, if you don't have the Zoom account, go get a Zoom account. They're free. So you need to just learn how to leverage technology in a new way. So my mother-in-law called me a couple days ago, and she's learning how to pivot her own business in terms of, she teaches fiddle. So how do you make money if you teach fiddle and people can't come and learn from you? Well, you figure out how to do it online. So what are the things in our business that we can take, and as many of them as possible, move them to this virtual new Zoom, to the Zoom platform. And really, we're finding there's not anything that you can't do that with. We just have to be willing to shift the mindset of that's the way it's always been done.
Yeah.
So I think of it a lot like Apollo 13. You remember that scene in the movie where they're trying to get Tom Hanks back, and they dump out all these pieces, and they're like, here's what you have to work with.
Yeah.
Make him come back. And they just kept reconfiguring the pieces. Okay, try it this way, try it this way. That's what we've been given.
Mm-hmm.
It was like we woke up and here are the pieces that you have. So what are you going to do with them? You can sit there and whine and complain that you don't have the pieces you need, or you can say, I have everything that I need right here to do all the business I could want and more.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to piece it together?
You know,
I'll say number one starts with just the Zoom technology and
Yeah.
using it all day long.
Well, and it's interesting. And one of the things we talk about in there in referrals, we had this conversation about resourcefulness. And I think so many times when we get stuck, we hit one roadblock and we just say, oh, I don't know how to do this. And we don't have the option today to let the roadblock be an obstacle. It's one of these things, well, I guess I have to stop and figure it out now because I don't have a choice. And I think that's a lot of things today is what if it's now, what's that old saying? Necessity is the mother of invention.
Mother of invention, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think
it's like when we say, I can't find my car keys. I can't find my car keys. I can't find my car keys. You'll never find your car keys, and they're right here. So what's the languaging that we're using every day? If we just wake up and say, I have everything I need today to have the business that I want.
Yeah.
Well, what's
subconscious
really cool
gets to work at it.
What else really pops in my head, Alyce, about what you're saying is, going to that resourcefulness. Well, think about the people that are in your database. Think about the people that are in, all of the agent databases that are finding themselves in the same position that we are and having to learn how to be resourceful. And maybe Steve, as you spoke about, you have one of those people and they shut down. Here's an opportunity for us to say, here's what we're doing in our business to continue moving things forward. And now think about what we just did with that business relationship as well.
Yeah. That's really cool. Well, you think about that, Alyce, you guys deal with lots of different business people, and the lessons you learn as a business person, you have the opportunity to pass along, to
and we've said over and over on these webinars, like the best client events are the ones that you don't have to pay for. Well, welcome. You don't have to pay for any of them right now. So you can create, your budget is, will go all the way. So what do you want to create? Because you have the opportunity to do it right now.
So true.
So you had mentioned, let's get into this whole idea now of dealing with the market of the moment and virtual connections with our clients, virtual events. So the question, why is social distancing a terrible term or misnomer? Tell us, you mentioned that a while back. So tell me tell me about that.
So I think it's so funny that they use this term social distancing, because I think I think it's a terrible term. It's physical distancing that we need. Like, we need physical space from each other, but there has never been a moment in history that we've needed to be more social than right now.
Yeah.
Because it's what everybody's starving for. People are isolated in their homes and they need to socialize. So social distancing isn't actually what we need. It's the physical distancing. So what are the ways that, as realtors, we are community leaders, and it's time for us to own that space. Like, because we live in the realtor world, we think everybody knows as many people as we do. Realtors know a disproportionate number of people in the community than anybody else I know. So how do we be resourceful with this gift that we have? So, within my database, who do I know? Who do I know that, Gary talked about sharing and giving economy. That's what we have to trade right now. We have resources to trade. So if I have somebody in my database that's a bartender that can't go to work right now, well, maybe I get him on a webinar and he teaches us how to make a quarantini, make up a drink, and bring some people on, and that's what a party is right now. So who are the people in my database that have something to give and who are the people in my database that have, that have a need. That's what we get to do.
A quarantini. I'm digging it. So we're going to get that recipe, Tammy. That's our next digital happy hour. We're going to do quarantini time. So love it. Well, in fact, it sounds like we're inventing new language as we go through this journey as well. And what I heard you say earlier is how much of this is going to be now the acceptable way of doing business, the acceptable way of engaging. And a lot of people just never engaged this way because it was learning something, it was getting a tool, it was not familiar. And yet in our lesson on video, we talk about the lady that who was from South Korea, her parents, grandparents still in South Korea, and never had met their granddaughter, and yet the grandmother had built a relationship with the granddaughter over FaceTime.
Yeah.
And grandpa had some weird aversion to FaceTime or video or being on any of that. When they came through security at the airport, when we used to do that, and they came through security at the airport, the little girl sees grandma, runs to her, gives her a big hug, and she sees this guy next to her and just kind of hides behind grandma, not knowing who is this guy.
Yeah.
And takes her 3 days to warm up to grandpa. And so we see the power of just what it can do in something like that. And it sounds like we're starting to experience it now, in our digital world of how we interact with our clients. So take me through, and how can we as realtors lead our database in the midst of this crisis? Because I mean, we talk about the Dailey group a lot about building a tribe, and I heard y'all say once that every tribe needs a tribal leader.
Yeah.
And so how are y'all leading your database right now?
So crisis creates two things. It creates problems, which we all know that we have, and it creates opportunities. And the leaders, these tribal leaders that are able to see needs and respond to them quickly, are the ones that are going to create business. So it's looking at the tribe and asking what needs are, because people that didn't have needs 2 weeks ago have needs today. Mm-hmm. And people that we don't think have needs have needs. We're making a lot of assumptions if we're not picking up the phone and engaging with them. And my MAPS coaching clients, over and over again, they're saying people are picking up the phone. They're home. They want to talk to me. What would usually I'd blow through a bunch of calls in this amount of time because nobody would answer. They're making so few calls because everybody wants to talk for 30 minutes. Okay, so what's the need? So it's constantly asking ourselves, like, okay, what's the need? Okay, well, this mom's going crazy because her kids are home and she's having to learn how to homeschool. Okay, so what's the need? She's having trouble homeschooling. She doesn't have enough time to take a shower. Okay, how can I meet that need? Who else is in my database that might be able to help? All right, so in my database, I have somebody that's a tutor. Okay, so what if I call the tutor and say, hey, would you be willing to do like 30 minutes of tutoring time with Meredith for all of our clients that have kids that just have some questions they want to ask, so that mom can get a break for 30 minutes? She's like, yeah, sure, I'd love to do that, because it juices her up to give the gift of what she already knows how to do. She wants to help and she doesn't know how. So, Mr. Rogers had that quote of, always look for the helpers in times of need and trouble. The helpers are all around, and we've got helpers in our database. Everybody wants to help now and they don't know how. So we get to connect the helpers to the people that need it. And what if you just called through your database and said, hey, there are people in our little Dailey group community who, some of them need groceries delivered and they're just too afraid to ask, or, don't know who they could go to. If you know of anybody, would you let me know? And they're like, well, I could do that. I'm going to the grocery store this afternoon and they live in my neighborhood. Great. So we're just playing matchmaker. 2 weeks ago, we were matching people in houses, which we'll still do. And yet right now we're matching needs with people that can fill them. And it's all existing right in our database. And all we need to do is pick up the phone and call them.
Wow. And what's really powerful about, what you said is that they're hungry for this connection. They're picking up the phone. I saw a post on the Bold Facebook page where somebody who's a bold student, calling through their DTD2s or calling their database, and they got to somebody that was having and this person was extremely intimidated about getting on the phone during this particular time and moment. And, this is why we've built some kind of market of the moment conversations that we've posted in that section, guys, for you to really kind of get clear on. And we've covered that on some of the past webinars. Here's what he said. I came across somebody that was having a really tough time. And he's a very spiritual person. And he said, "May I pray with you?" And he said that was an extremely powerful moment for him. It was an extremely powerful moment for his client. And it was a human moment that neither one of them is ever going to forget.
Yeah.
And just
I think about, Steve and Tammy, how many business professionals that you do business with, that your clients have called you in the last week?
One.
I got one text from an attorney.
Yeah.
One from
Just, "Hey, how are you doing?" And I think it was more because she was bored.
Yeah.
But it wasn't with any intentionality. So like my mind was blown when I thought about that in reverse. If I know all of these people and one person reached out to me, who's reaching out to our clients? Nobody.
Well, worse yet would be, Alyce, that people are reaching out who are complaining and moaning and sky is falling. Those people tend to reach out more than the people they might really need to speak to, right?
Yeah. So you're letting all this other negativity get in there, and that's contagious. But like Gary said, like the other thing that's contagious is hope and bravery and courage and optimism. And it doesn't mean we go in there and tell them, "Hey, everything's going to be okay." It's going in there and being empathetic and just saying, "Yeah, this is hard.
Yeah.
And we're in this together." Because what we're doing right now is every call is a care call. Every lead gen call is just a care call. It's me saying like, "Hey, I'm human, you're human. This is a really stinky kind of situation. How do we be in this together? What do you need? I don't know if I can help, and I'm sure as heck going to try."
Yeah.
And we're building up pressure right now so that when things go back to whatever the new normal is, the floodgates open up for, "Hey, I know somebody that needs to sell a house. You need to call Alyce because she'll really take care of you and she'll tell you the truth."
Yeah. So what are you finding are the most frequent conversations y'all are having with the people in your database right now? What are they curious about? What are you talking about? Let's hear it from your perspective.
Yeah. So I think one of the most surprising ones is just posting some stats on, "Hey, here's what's happening in the market. Here's how many houses went on the market yesterday. Here's how many went under contract," because there's this impression that everything's completely shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that that's not 100% true. We know that things are still closing. We know that people are still going under contract. It just looks different. So I'll post pictures of, being on a Zoom consult, not to say, "Hey, who do you know that's thinking about buying or selling?" Just to give people an awareness that business is still happening. Now, the conversations are honestly a lot more listening, very little talking. It's a question of, "Hey, how are you really?"
Yeah.
That's all you have to say.
Yeah.
And that is the conversation. And whoever does the most talking believes the conversation went best. So if they're doing all the talking, that's a really good sign.
Yeah. Well, Gary talks about in the Shift book, and when he talks about, it's in the section on lead conversion, and he talks about connect, and he said it's, ask a question, listen. You ask a question, listen. Ask another question that's, it may be tied to what they said, listen, and that's the game, in this market of really making sure that they know that we care. One of the things that we talk about, and I'd love your comment on posting that business is happening, is because one of the conversations that we put up on our site here was the trusted advisor conversation, where it starts off with checking on them. How are you? What's going on? And making sure they're okay. And saying, by the way, just want you to know, because the news media is just all tied up with dealing with this virus. There's a lot of things that may affect you as a homeowner, and just if you need any resources, mortgage relief situations, you know, if you're in a place where interest rates get really low and it's right to refinance, just know that the media doesn't have any space to cover these opportunities in here. And, you know, we're here to help in anything you need. And then just make sure you wrap it up on go back to forward and hit those conversations, right?
I think just the question of, you know, hey, if you know anybody that's going to have trouble making their mortgage payment, can you connect us? Because I'd love to be able to offer some resources. So
Yeah.
I'm not even asking directly to them, but a lot of times it's them.
Yeah. So it's the indirect approach.
Exactly.
Well, and one of the things that you touched on too, Alyce, I mean, was just listening so that you can connect people. And I think, you know, outside of just caring on our people, that's probably one of the most important things we could do is because, you know, friends, I had a conversation with somebody this morning who shared with me that they were having conversations and in just having a care call, found a relative that was moving, set to move in Arizona, and the movers didn't show up. The movers said they weren't going to come and do it. And by golly, this person states away had the ability to connect them with somebody and help them move. And I think that we forget that, you know, that when we call and we listen, like what Steve was just saying, and we connect people like what you're saying, Alyce, is there's a gift in here that we're much, much more than just real estate agents.
Oh, so much more. And I hope for everyone listening, this takes the pressure off of what traditional lead gen has been. Mm-hmm. I hope you can just take all of that aside and just say, I'm going to go take care of people. And I know beyond a shadow of a doubt by you taking care of people, the business will come down the road. And don't worry about it. Just for right now, just take care of your people. I had one MAPS client this week. She had somebody in her database that does makeup for a living. And she got, 8 or 9 women on a Zoom call, and they taught how to do makeup, and they liked it so much they're going to do like a series now. They're going to do eyes one week, and whatever. They're going to do this whole series. But she's like, Alyce, I got a referral on that call, and she's coming to the next one, and I'm doing a buyer consult with her tomorrow. She wasn't looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You see, you have to have the makeup just right for Zoom now, right? So it's
Right.
up close. Every little pore. Got to watch that. So the lights are on, and you got all this.
Oh yes.
I tell you, it's tough, man. So and I want to go back, and you used the word earlier, and I want to go back to that word, Alyce, because and just highlight it again. You used the word matchmaker, and that's what I'm hearing here. You talked on it already, and yet. Anything else you want to touch on matchmaker?
Make it a game. Print out your database and go down and say, do I know what this person does for a living? Do I know what they like to do in their free time? And if you don't know, pick up the phone and call them and ask them, and start being resourceful with, okay, what do they know? What do they like? What are their strengths? And start playing a game with, who can I put together here with what they need and what they have to offer? You've got somebody that loves crafting and loves, is the Pinteresty mom. And then you've got the mom that's just trying to get some work done during her day. Great. Maybe you put the kids together on Zoom for an hour during the day so that both moms get a little bit of a break. This one likes to cook. This one hates to cook. Great. Maybe there's a match there. How can you put them together on Zoom? You don't have to be the source of the information. You don't need to know how to bake. You don't need to know how to cook. You don't need to know how to mix a drink. You don't need to know how to do makeup. But we have this gold mine in our database that if we just look at it and start thinking about it differently, we can put people together. And when you do this, they'll never leave you.
Oh, wow. Something just hit me as you were talking about this, and that's, we had a friend over yesterday. We kept her at 6 feet. And she was on her iPad with her daughter. She was just working from our patio and hanging out here. And she was on her daughter, who is in Colorado. She was on a Zoom with her daughter and some of her friends on a book club, and they were going through a book. And how old are your girls now?
16, 14, 11, and 8.
So what if all 4 of them were leading a separate book club with the kids in your network? I mean,
oh my gosh.
think about the possibilities.
Cool idea.
I mean, we're going to be doing one as a family on, you know, interviewing our kids on things we've done well, things where we've messed up, things where, you know, things they've learned about money, and, you know, having our clients come with their kids. And I mean, what an opportunity. Like, a crisis is something not to be wasted.
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing we could say at the end of this was, oh, I wish I had.
Ooh, write
So
that down.
think about, at the end of this, all the things that you want to get done, and just go do them.
Yeah.
We have the time. I mean, you can sleep in now, which I think is a terrible thing to do, or you can use it to do something good. And with the power of Zoom right now, it doesn't matter what time zone you're in. There's always somebody you can talk to. What about an agent you can network with on the other side of the country?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Tap into the other agent resources that we have and see what's working for them. Go encourage an agent in another area that might be on complete lockdown and they're not even allowed to make calls. Because there are places like that that exist. Like, it might be us tomorrow, who knows? So be there for one another.
Well, and you know, and think about, like, a great coach like yourself. I mean, I know there's some market centers that in markets that are completely shut down. They've stopped real estate completely, and man, if they just got you in a Zoom call for a team meeting, you know, if you guys are in one of those market centers out there, you know, reach out to people like Alyce. I'm sure they'd love to come into your room and you know, with your market center, if y'all are doing a market center team meeting or something, spend 15 minutes with you. Not that I'm obligating you to all kinds of things here.
No, but you bring up a great point. There has never been a time in history where there's been so much talent
Yeah.
pent up that is willing to share their time because it's just behind a screen for a few minutes. So I mean, there was some DJ that was doing a dance party, and is like doing a dance party every night of the quarantine. And he flipped out when he realized Michelle Obama was on it.
Oh my gosh.
But think about that. Like, these are the people that are sitting at home doing the same thing you and I are doing. So who are you 7 degrees from that you could get on a Zoom call?
There you go. So you talked, you know, Gary Keller's got that sentiment about this giving and sharing economy, and just, I think we've kind of gotten to there a little bit, but just tie that together a little bit and how it applies to what we're doing right here.
That is everything. So we don't have anything else to exchange right now except what's inside, what's up here, what's in our heads, and what's in our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's very little that we have to exchange other than that. So it's tapping into, I think, the most beautiful parts of what it means to be a human being right now and exchanging those things. And again, just going back to the database, because we're the only ones that get this 30,000 foot view of our database. Everybody else just sees little pieces of it. We get to go into it, look at it from this 30,000 foot view and say, wow, what can I create from this? These are all the little pieces of the Apollo 13 that need to bring it back down to earth. What can I create? And I think we'll be just shocked at what we have the ability to do. I mean, the number of people, you mentioned the guy that talked about praying with a client. Okay, well, you know, it just made me think, you know, I've got several pastors in my database. I bet there's some people right now that could use a little, I've got some faith-based questions and I don't know who to go ask.
Mm-hmm.
But they would trust somebody that I know in my database, so I can make them available and say, hey, you know what, for those of you that have just been exploring faith a little bit and have some serious questions and you want a safe place to ask them, we're going to do a Zoom call with my friend Mark, who's a pastor over at, XYZ Church.
Mm-hmm.
So
wow.
Anything right now can be a client event.
Yeah.
I would just urge you to not have the same people at every one. Create different things. Do at least 2 of them a week. Do one fun happy hour, and then do one where you're bringing in a financial planner, or you're bringing in, somebody that's going to talk about mortgage relief, or bring in somebody that shows the business side, and then do something fun. But you can do at least 2 a week if you're not doing more than that.
Yeah. Well, tell us, let's go into that just a little bit more. I mean, so I love, you said it's only limited by your creativity, right?
Yeah.
Book clubs to the bartender and the quarantini, and yet what are some of the ones that you're saying, okay, these are some that are on my kind of agenda to launch? Give us some things out of your mind.
It's funny. I used to say you're limited only by your imagination and by your wallet. And right now you're really just limited by your imagination. Like, the wallet is not an issue anymore. Some of the ones that I've been some of the ones that I've seen, some of these I've seen done and some of them we've done. But think about bingo or bunko, doing that online, the makeup one, a baking one, financial planner. Who do you know that right now? I mean, some people are going to put on that COVID-19 pounds over this quarantine. So we need some health advice. How do we stay healthy and maintain, you know, our physical well-being? Who in your database can share some health advice? Mental health. If you have any mental health professionals in your database, this is a great time to bring them in, because there's going to be a lot of that going on. So maybe you've got a child psychologist you can engage that you can say, hey, how do I talk to my kids about this? Do you think you get some people from your database interested in how to talk to kids about this? And we thought this was going to be a couple-week thing, and now we don't really know how long it's going to be. So how do you talk to them? Exercise. I've had so many people like, I just want to do yoga with some other people. People love their Peloton because they're doing it live with other people.
Yeah.
We're creating our own Peloton is really what we're doing. I saw Cody Gibson did the hip hop for kids. His oldest is a hip hop guy. And so, you know, the kids were entertained for an hour while they're learning to do hip hop over Zoom. So the kids were doing that for one another. Crafting, engage the restaurants, the bartenders that aren't being used, that want to get out there. I had somebody do get their live musicians do a concert. And if you wanted to Venmo them money, you could. So supporting local artists. Book clubs. I've seen book clubs where read whatever book you want to read and just come and tell us about the book. So it wasn't even everybody reading the same book. It doesn't even matter. The happy hour, I think you can do every day. If you are not writing personal notes right now, you're missing an opportunity. So get out a piece of paper, write some notes, because the longest walk some people are taking right now is to their mailbox.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and just start putting this out there. What are my, you know, I look at I love that 30,000 square foot. That's a real estate agent
You're
talking.
such a realtor.
the 30,000 foot view of my database, and, you know, who's in there and what do they do? And, you know, go back to that matchmaker, you know, and how, you know, and so you think about that giving and sharing economy, being the matchmaker. I mean, all these little things. Let's go to some, any thoughts before we go to Q&A here and go to the chat box? If you guys want to go to the questions box, I have a question now. Of course, our panelist, Lynette, is Alyce Dailey. Lynette came on a little late. And who is this wonderful woman, she said. I said, it's Alyce Dailey. It's Alice with a Y, Dailey with an E. So just so you get that. Alyce Dailey, the Dailey Group, Baltimore, Maryland. Just, you know, expert on client appreciation events and now digital events and what we're doing. So thank you for all your contributions. Take us through some of the questions or chat box items here, Tammy.
Yeah, a lot of them are more comments, Alyce, just, you know, people following up on the same things, that they're having quality time with clients. Somebody says, you know, I just did my first virtual buyer consult on Wednesday. They wrote an offer for them last night. Haven't even seen the property, you know, and I just think that we're just demonstrating that we're doing things different. Somebody says, Alyce, loved your idea on posting that you're doing a Zoom consultation. So taking that screen share and just being able to put out there, not necessarily that I'm looking for business, however, that I am conducting business.
Yeah. I think the next stage of where we're going to go, because right now we're all operating in E, just very entrepreneurial, figuring it out. So how do we become purposeful? So the comments I'm getting from a lot of my coaching clients is, well, I had a goal to make 40 phone calls today and I got through 3. Okay, that's 3 is better than nothing. And in order for us to stay in business, we need to make 40. So what can we do? So one of the ways that we're getting purposeful around that is to block out the 4 hours we need to make the calls. If a call goes beyond whatever time it is you set, you say, you know, I'll say, you know what, Tammy, this is so important to me. You don't understand how important this is to me, that I really hear you and I just be able to sit with you and what's going on. And I know that I've got another appointment I have to be on in 5 minutes. Can we set up a virtual coffee date for Thursday at 2 or Friday at 10? And so I can just sit here and give you all the attention because I really want to hear.
Love that.
Because having done a lot of work with how you heal trauma, the brain actually has the ability to rewire itself. And one of the ways the brain rewires itself is through somebody listening with empathy. So if we go into our calls realizing that I'm helping heal trauma by being empathetic and just listening, we need to make space for that. And we still need to get in our 40 contacts.
Yeah.
Because what about those other 37 people that didn't hear from you at all? They're important too. So how do we become purposeful with our contacts?
And there's how you look at it, is what about the 37 people that I'm not connecting with?
Yes.
That heal through that empathy. I love it. I love it. So somebody says, do we have a resource for mortgage relief yet, or mortgage payment relief?
Great question.
Go ahead, Alyce.
Yeah, I'd be talking to your mortgage people and I'd start Googling it, and yeah, for sure. I think it's out there.
It is. I would encourage everybody that, you know, if you're speaking with people that are worried about that, the first call is to their mortgage holder. I mean, they're going to call the mortgage company and let them know. I mean, we know that this is going to be, you know, system wide, and all of these companies are going to be doing things, would be a great assumption. However, we can't assume anything, and don't let people sit back and just assume and not make the call.
Yeah.
You know, people tend to not make calls when they get into these places. They retreat and they cocoon.
And you're going to see a lot more of these companies, mortgage servicers, reaching out proactively as the government passes and gets all this moving, because a lot of them have been holding back to see what the government's going to do. You know, what's in it for the banks? What kind of regulatory issues are they going to be dealing with in this environment? So as we move through this, you'll see, you know, Bank of America had already come out and made some statements about mortgage relief, and it'll be, you know, institution by institution, will start to come out and do that. And then teaching them, coaching them. And this is probably where your financial planner comes in mind. Do you have somebody from a mortgage company that's doing mortgage relief? You know, there's a person you can bring somebody in. What do people need to know? How do they communicate with? Maybe it's an attorney. You know, it could be any kinds of these types of resources. Alyce,
don't be the one that gives the advice. Don't tell somebody don't make your mortgage payment.
Yeah.
Be the resource for where they can find what they need. And if you right now don't have a Facebook page where all of your clients can come together, where you're bringing them together in one place, now's a great time to do that. So create the Facebook page, you know, a little private Facebook page of all the people that you've worked with, invite them into it. Start just doing little videos of, you know, hey, here's something I learned today. Here's an article I read. Again, you don't have to have the information. You just need to be the source of it.
Oh, that's amazing. Good advice. Anything else in the chat box there?
Yeah. So Janet asks, what is the best way to invite people to these expert events? One-on-one with your contacts, or email, or Facebook, or something else?
Always one-on-one, especially now, because they are so happy to hear from you. So happy to hear from you.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. Do you post anything on social media in addition to that, Alyce, just to invite them?
Oh yeah, totally. Because I want to cast a wide net. You just don't know. You don't have a whole lot of control over who's seeing what. I have control if I'm calling somebody and I have a conversation with them. I know what they heard. I know what the messaging was. I know how they received it. If I just throw it out on Facebook, with the number of things coming at people right now on social media, it's too much. So you just don't know who's seeing what.
Yeah, agree. All right, so let's see. Knowyouroptions.com. Jeannie just sent out. It must be a resource as far as mortgages go. The Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac sites regarding mortgage relief. There you go. See, we crowdsource together and we all learn. Right?
Screenshot that right now. We'll put it out there. So perfect.
Missy, last question, says, what would you call that Facebook page that you were just?
So ours is like the Dailey Group's VIP ambassadors or something like that. And then I call people and let them know, hey, just want to let you know, I just invited you to this page, and really the purpose is just to get all of our people together, because I come across some great people that I think you'd want to meet. And, you know, I'm sure you know some great people that I'd want to meet, just kind of in these times where things are so weird and strange, and we all need each other, and we're all going to get through this together. So I'd love to have you be a part.
I love it. There's no better time to create that.
None.
Any parting thoughts, Steve? Any question that's burning, or did I miss any questions? I don't think so.
Client Facebook page, should it be your business page or a private page?
If it's just your client, so we have a Dailey group business page that you can all go on and you can see like pictures from our client events and all that sort of thing. But we've got a private page, like this secret group, because remember, a tribe needs to be special. It needs to have the secret handshake, needs to know, needs to be exclusive. So yeah, I've got a private page with all of my people, and that's not going to be nearly as many, the page that everybody can go look at. That's more of a, it's not interactive. Everybody's just coming to see the Dailey group stuff. The group is interactive. So a page is passive, the group is interactive. So there's your difference between the two.
Yeah.
Love it.
So a private group, and then by the way, it's and then you can set a stage for what that's all about. It's for about the market of the moment right now. It could be survive beyond this. It could transition into something else, and yet it begins to create a community, is what I'm hearing. Yeah.
So we've been doing this for years, and yet if you've not done it at all, people are so open to it right now, more than they've ever been. So it's the perfect opportunity. If you've not run a referral-based business up until now, it's the perfect time to get started, because people need now more than ever people that they trust.
Let's see. How often should I check back with our clients after leaving a message if they left a message?
I call them again right away the next day. Why not? We know they're home.
Well, remember, we teach something in Never Ending Referrals called the 3-attempt approach, right? Mm-hmm. So Monday, you don't get an answer, leave a voicemail. They don't have to call you back. Hey, I'll give you a shout later in the week. Second attempt, Wednesday, don't leave a message. If you don't get them, Thursday, make one last attempt. And then move through your DTD2. Now, we'll post again, in fact, with this video, once we get it posted to the portal, we'll also post the accelerated DTD2 schedule. We're encouraging you to double up right now. And, you got the hours to put in. You're at home. And, I love the comment you gave us, the tip you gave us on find your way to get through those contacts. It's got to get done. And where you would have had room for listing appointments or whatever else that maybe you didn't go on as many this week, that's where you're having these conversations. Somebody said something today about the shift book. There's I believe it's Tactic 9, which is bulletproof the conversation. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, not the conversation, bulletproof the transaction.
Yeah.
Well, what about bulletproofing the relationships?
Yes.
Right. And this is
powerful.
This is a time like no other time to be able to do that. Yes, we will send you out that DTD2 form. Which on E was interactive?
Which one of your pages was interactive? It wasn't your business page, like the Dailey group. It was the one that you created for your people, your tribe.
For our tribe. So for our clients, that Facebook group, just like your Never Ending Referrals Facebook group is interactive. You can post, I can post, everybody can interact with it. So that's going to be a smaller group.
Okay. Awesome.
So let's put a bow tie on this. And so Tammy, I mean, you've heard a lot today, and we're going to have Alyce have the last word here. And yet, what did you hear today? What last question do you want to pull up from Alyce? Give us some perspective on what you heard today.
Oh gosh, Alyce, you always bring so much value to these conversations. We appreciate you so much. And I think that mine would be more of a comment, actually, and maybe you can piggyback on it, is, one of the things that we always see in you is your resourcefulness and your creativity and just your energy around a situation. And knowing you the way that we do, your energy is the same right now as it was in February, And all you've done is look at, where are the opportunities or the silver lining, if you will. I mean, Steve, we've used that word. And you're just using it to pour into your people in a different way. And it's teaching them that they can count on you.
And here's the value of what I would say is the reason to be so plugged in right now is resourceful. Half the battle right now in being resourceful is show up, suit up, pay attention, go to where there are resources, where are the best of the best being assembled. And, Alyce happens to be a MAPS coach, and, MAPS has an offer right now where I think, was it 2 months?
2 months for free.
2 months free mastery coaching.
Yeah.
for
And if
match.
you want a free call before you even decide on that, call me. I'll do a free call with you. Because, and Gary said it so many times, of just, you know, we need to cut expenses, but the expense not to cut right now is a coach.
Yeah.
Because Tammy, you're very kind to say that my energy right now is really high. And the reason it's that way is because I have a coach. Because I need to dump my stuff somewhere, right?
Yeah.
It's not like I miss all the time. It's, I need my time to just be, yeah, you know, there's some really crappy stuff going on, and I'm dealing with some hard stuff, and I've got to figure out some bills, and I've got to figure out, you know, how do I not lay off people? And like, this is the real deal, right? So I can't give that up. You know, Steve and Tammy, you're coaches to everybody on this call. So if you don't have that one-on-one relationship, now is the time to go get it. So yeah,
So
Gary's made a generous offer.
Yeah. So just, you know, Gary's made that available. So just being part of MAPS community through Never-Ending Referrals, you know, if you've ever thought about one-on-one, this might be a good time to explore it. The threshold for mastery coaching is 150,000 and above GCI, you know, few exceptions to that. And I think, so just so you know that going into it, and give us some last words around, you know, what we've covered today. If you were going to put a big bow tie on this thing today, Alyce, what would it be?
Never waste a crisis. There is tremendous opportunity right now. I was just telling our kids, you know, we were talking to them and saying, you know what, the most amazing thing that's going to come out of all of this is the entrepreneurs that are going to just rise up out of the ashes of all of this. So that's what we have the opportunity to do. We have the opportunity to lead through a crisis. So we can go follow, or we can choose to lead. And I think just by virtue of being on this call, like, you're showing up and you're saying, hey, I've got some people in my database that matter to me. So figure out, come up with a plan. How am I going to lead them?
Outstanding. Hey, Alyce, thank you again for pouring into all of our folks today. And I know you do this from right here all the time. Yeah. And you make Seth, you know, y'all make such a big difference in so many people. We're so grateful for you. Give Seth our best. So
I will.
There you go. Tammy, anything
and
else?
If you want to connect, find me on Kelly or find me on Facebook.
Yeah. Now it's Alyce, ALYCE.
And Dailey is DAILEY.
Yeah. Alyce at thedailygroup.com. Thedailygroup.com. And so, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today with Never-Ending Referrals. Let's have a great weekend. Make the most of this, and never let a crisis go to waste. Thank you, Alyce.
Thank you,
Thank
Alyce.
you.
Thank you, Tammy.
Bye, guys. Love you guys.
Thanks.